Today we are creating a winter body butter. In the winter time, that's when we get the most dry skins, and that's when we get a lot of flakes, especially when we suffer from super dry skin. It gets worse in the winter. So this is what this formula is for. This formula is for someone who wants something a bit more like heavier compared to the light ones that we make in the summer, that doesn't feel too crazy on their hand but gets the job done and keeps them moisturized, keeps the dry skin at bay. You can follow along with the formula here. For this, you just need shea butter, mango butter, avocado oil, vitamin E oil, Collodial Oatmeal, essential oils, and fragrance is optional. Also, avocado oil is optional. You can use apricot kernel oil or any other carrier oil of your choice. Same thing with the mango butter. Now, first thing we're going to start with, which is our main thing, is our shea butter. We are using shea butter at 37%. This is equivalent to 4.44 ounces. We are adding it first since it takes up most of the base of this body butter that we're about to make, our signature winter body butter. Once we've completed adding in our shea butter, which you can substitute for anything else of your liking, I will say, another butter might allow it to have another texture, but this is also up to you. The next thing we're adding is our mango butter. We are adding in our mango butter at 18%. 18% is equivalent to 2.16 ounce. I'm adding the mango butter, of course, for its moisturizing property and how thick it is compared to the shea butter. Now, yes, it is thick and I want this to be a bit of a soft butter. However, I don't want it to be too soft. Hence why I added the mango butter to give it a bit more, body, so it won't be too soft when it's completed. So that's why I want the mango butter. So let's say you make this and you don't like how thick it is. You may want to take out some of the mango butter and substitute that with oil, and then it won't be as thick. Now that we've added in all our butters to our formulation, we're going to go ahead and add in our sweet almond oil to this formulation. Now, if you have any form of nut allergy or anything like that, you could definitely swap this sweet almond oil out for another oil, preferably probably apricot oil, avocado oil, something heavy if you want this to be for very super dry skin. We are adding in our sweet almond oil at 41%, which is 4.92 ounces of the formulation. This is equivalent to 139 grams of the formulation. You can also play with this recipe. You can do multiple oils or you can do just one. I am choosing to do just one oil, carrier oil, for this formulation. It makes it much simpler and easier for me. The next thing we're going to do is place our combination of butters and oils onto our beaker, a double boiler, so that our products can melt down. So I'm not directly putting this on the heater or on the burner. I'm putting it inside of a pot of boiling water, which will create my own double boiler, and let it allow, and that way it will melt slowly. Once it's melted, I'll bring it back to my mixing station and we'll continue the process. So while our melted butters and oils solidify in the freezer, we're going to go ahead and add in our vitamin E oil. We are adding in our vitamin E oil at 1%, which is equivalent to 0.12%, which is equivalent to 3.40 grams. So let's do that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in some tea tree essential oil. I'm only using tea tree oil in this formulation. When I mix too much oils or use too much tea tree oil, it kind of takes over the scent of the body butter, and I don't want that, so I'm not using too much, and I'm also not using too much essential oils. So we're going to go ahead and add in our tea tree oil at 1%, which is the same 3.40 grams. The next thing I'm going to add is our fragrance for this. So at the time of when I was making this, I added pumpkin spice fragrance, but honestly, just add whatever fragrance you want. Any fragrance for the holiday, seasonal, whatever it is. I'm adding in this fragrance at 1%. This is 0.12 ounces and 3.40 grams. Next, I'll also be adding in my Collodial Oatmeal at 1%. This 1% is equivalent to 0.12 ounces and 3.40 grams. I'm using my spatula to gently add in my Collodial Oatmeal so I don't go over my percentages. Once that is completed, I'll go on to the next step. Once I've completed adding in all of my additives that I don't want to add in my heat phase, I add in my cool down phase. I go ahead and I use my stirring rod and I definitely stir this up to get everything incorporated, you know, stir in the Collodial Oatmeal, the essential oil, the fragrance oil, everything vitamin E, and just stir it all together so it can all be infused together before I add it into my melted butters and oils. The next item we're going to add to this is some pumpkin powder. Now in this part of the formulation, the pumpkin powder doesn't really have a very strong scent. Like, it doesn't even smell like pumpkin that much. I'm just using it to add to the color of the formulation, so that way I don't have to use too much mica nor turmeric. Now if you wanted to use this in a scrub, depending on how much you use, it has some exfoliating properties as well. So if you require to add it into the formulation, just so you know, like exactly down to the T how much powder you're adding in, then you could go ahead and add that. For anyone who may be concerned about how much I may have placed in this formulation, I did 1.5 grams. Now if you were doing a scrub, you would definitely want to put a bit more than that. Now that's completed, we're going to go ahead and use our stirring rod to mix this all together. That way we can break down all the solid parts, have it all incorporated, so when I pour it into my butters and oil mixture, I don't have to worry about too much clumps inside of it. I completely forgot to put this in here on camera, but I poured in our mixture. So I poured in the mixture of our additives earlier and the camera wasn't recording, but let's continue. So we added it in and we're going to go ahead and stir it around. And as you can see, as I'm stirring it around, it is becoming this solid looking color right here, like a milky color. That's fine. Now if you want this to be more of an orange pumpkinish color, you might need to add some mica to it, which I'm going to do now. I would suggest adding in the mica into the previous mixture, but I didn't think I would want to add it in. But now that I do, I'm going to go ahead and just pour a little bit inside of it and keep my mixture going, just so it have a nice little orangish type of tint that I'm going for. Since you've added that, we're going to go ahead and mix our formulation together. And it's good that I'm doing it now because it's still liquid, so you know it can incorporate with the liquids before it solidifies. So I like that. It's not too solid, so either way, let's go ahead and mix that in. A bit too, seems like it wants to be a little bit more solid, but I'm gonna go ahead and mix it and see if it will take it to that solid point. Notice how I started to whip it and the color is changing. That's because it's becoming solid. So as it gets more solid, the color starts to change a bit. You start to see more of what color it will be, and this kind of helps it to speed up that process of it. Now I can leave this right here and it will become solid just from that room temperature, and I'll be okay with that. Or I can put it in the fridge so it can get a bit more solid than it is right now, because it now I don't want to pour it like this. I want it to get solid enough so I can whip it so it can be fluffy, and then I put it in my container. I don't want to pour it and have it get solid in there. So what I ended up doing instead was placing it inside the fridge so it can get a little bit more solid. It wasn't for long, because it didn't take it very long to get to this texture that it is right now. Now that it is a bit, I would say, solid enough, I went and I got my handheld mixer and I started to whip this up until it got that nice fluffy consistency that I was going for to pour it inside my jar. I like to whip it so it gets that nice fluffy texture, but I don't whip it for too long because I don't want it to get hard inside the jar while I'm whipping it. Like sometimes you whip it for so long it gets like this thick consistency, and then I'd have to transfer this to a piping bag and squeeze it in, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to get it to a temperature where I can pour it inside the jar. Now that I've mixed this to an acceptable consistency, I'm going to go ahead and get my 8-ounce jar, and I'm going to scoop it inside of it. That was the plan. So you notice how I'm scooping off the side and there's still some thick to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and probably mix that again with my mixer just to make sure that's incorporated, and then scoop in what I can scoop in inside of this jar. Now it's at the perfect texture for me to pour it in. I decided to go ahead and put it into my jar. So this is what I mean when I say I can just pour it in there while it's thick at the same time and not too thin. If you want to whip it up all the way to where it's fluffy and use a piping bag, that's perfectly fine as well, which I don't mind doing that sometime, but right now I just didn't want to go through that process. This just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, this is 24 hours later. I wanted to show you the exact texture after you let it to sit, and as you can see, it is medium firm. It's not too soft, it's not too thick. It's firm enough for you to keep it around the house without it running out of the jar, but it's soft enough for you to put your finger in and basically scoop it up. And as you scoop it up, you don't have to worry about using your fingers to break it down or anything. You just rub it up like a lotion and then just, smooth it into your skin. As you can see, it does have that extra moisture from the oil that I put inside of it. That was for Persiff. If you suffer from really dry skin in the winter time, this is the one for you. So it is not as light as my regular body butters, but this one is made specifically for winter dry skin. So notice how it's glossy on my skin, how it seeps into everything and once you put it on, you let it sit out for a while. It smells good because of the pumpkin fragrance, but it also feels good. So if you're interested in this, or if you have any questions about this formula, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll respond to you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next formulation. Bye.